Here in our Weather Water Cooler series, we introduce you to some of our alums to highlight the variety of interesting work they're doing in the meteorology enterprise. Tonight, we welcome Andrew Hagen, Penn State Meteorology class of 2008, who's a surface analyst and forecaster at the National Hurricane Center. Welcome to Weather World, Andrew.
Hi, John. It's great to be here.
Yeah, good to see you again. So Andrew, take us through your academic and career journey to what you're doing today.
Well, it all started when I was 6 years old because I grew up in Miami, Florida, and experienced Hurricane Andrew. So that got me interested in hurricanes. And I was lucky enough to score a summer internship in high school with the Hurricane Research Division of NOAA, which is in Miami. And since half of the scientists that work at that lab had a degree from Penn State, that convinced me to attend Penn State for college. And that Penn State is really where I built all of my forecasting skills and my interest in forecasting. And then after college, I attended grad school at the University of Miami, where I had the unique experience of collaborating with the National Hurricane Center, getting to work with them as part of my master's thesis. After that, I broke into the world of forecasting and operational meteorology with Storm Geo in Houston, Texas, which is a private weather forecasting company. And then I joined the National Weather Service in 2016, the local Miami, South Florida office, which was back home for me. Before I joined the National Hurricane Center in 2018, which is where I work today.
Right. So yeah, you're currently a forecaster. If we could drill down within NHC's Tropical Analysis and Forecast Branch, or TAFB. Explain how TAFB fits into the bigger picture at the National Hurricane Center.
Yes, that's right. So the National Hurricane Center has three main branches. The branch that most people are familiar with is the Hurricane Specialist Unit. Now, those folks are the people that make the track and intensity forecasts, the 5-day cone graphics, whenever there's a hurricane or a tropical storm out there. Now, the branch that I'm a part of is the TAFB, it's TAFB for short. It's called the Tropical Analysis and Forecasting Branch. So we make the marine forecasts, and we issue products where the boaters and the ship captains are looking at all the wind and the wave forecasts that we issue across the Atlantic and the Eastern Pacific Oceans.
Okay, so you mentioned you had previously worked for a private company. You've been a tropical meteorologist for Storm Geo, and now you're with the government. Talk about the similarities and differences between being in the private and public sector in essentially similar roles.
So that's a question that I'm really excited to talk about. So some of the similarities are that we, in both jobs, I'm forecasting the weather, having to meet deadlines. And in both jobs, communication is a really important aspect because, you're communicating potentially hazardous weather to emergency management teams, either of private companies or the public sector entities. Like, for example, in the Weather Service, we're communicating this to the Coast Guard or to county emergency managers, and in the private sector, we're communicating it to like the emergency support teams of those big companies. So those are similarities. Now, some differences is that if you mess up a forecast in the private sector, that company might not want to sign the contract with you again, with your company again next year. In the Weather Service, I really enjoyed the opportunity to do public outreach and education to the general public.
Take us through a typical day at work during the height of hurricane season.
A typical day at work, well, that depends on which desk I'm working on, because within TAFB, there are 3 forecast desks. There's the Atlantic and Pacific forecast desk, and there's also a surface analysis desk. And there's a 4th desk that does decision support, like if we have to give briefings to the Coast Guard, and helps out other desks if they're busy. But during the peak of the hurricane season, if you're on the Atlantic forecast desk, for example, and the basin is really busy with multiple tropical storms and hurricanes, we're going to have to spend a lot of extra time issuing a lot of extra products than we normally would have if we didn't have a storm in that basin. So we have to work a lot more efficiently, and we're collaborating with the hurricane specialists on some of those products. Two of those are the Dvorak classifications, which is a satellite intensity estimate based on how strong the hurricane looks on satellite imagery. So it's our job to provide that to the hurricane specialist. We also provide for them the radius of the 12-foot seas around the hurricane, because mariners want to know how far out do those 12-foot seas extend from the center of the hurricane. So we also provide that to the hurricane specialist.
Andrew, we only have a couple seconds left. We always like to ask our guests in this feature, thinking back, what's a favorite memory of being here at Penn State?
Well, besides the best friends of my life that I made, which next year they're going to be in my wedding party, all my Penn State friends, I'd say, like, within the meteorology department at Penn State, the professors that I had, they were the authors of the textbooks that we were using. And so I thought that was a really unique situation. And then a short time later, I realized that at all the other meteorology schools in the country, they're using those same textbooks by the Penn State professors. So that made me realize what a special, unique situation it is to be a Penn State meteorology student.
Andrew Hagen, surface analyst and forecaster, National Hurricane Center. Thank you so much for joining us, Andrew.
All right, John, thanks a lot.
And we will be back in a moment with a recap of the short range forecast.